This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin FREAKIN.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol live. It's a freaking Wednesday afternoon, and hold on, I gotta turn my microphone down. I was doing voiceover earlier. I can already tell it's way too loud. Oh, I'm sorry you can't get high. I'm gonna get a little high. I've been doing voiceovers for like the past 4 hours. I've not smoked since like I started, so I am definitely dying to get a little high. I would assume for this I'm gonna have to break out the bong. We are getting ready for the final January 6th hearing. Also, like, I have a freaking news debuting on YouTube like right now. Warlord, I'm not exactly sure. I believe people pay me and I do voiceovers, right? So this wasn't technically a voiceover. I was recording phrases. I think they're training some sort of AI. I kept having to say like dates and names of airports and email addresses and shit like that. So I think it was training an AI. I'm halfway through the 1,800 phrases I got hired to do. 18 fucking hundred of them. I found, well, oh shit, you guys aren't seeing what I'm seeing. If I flip off of the screen, you lose the snow and everything. The snow's supposed to fade out. But they're showing, Washington Post was showing footage of the January 6th riot. And there was a dude in a red and white striped shirt, and I was like, I found Waldo, haha. You never know what you might hear my voice on, right? So I've done some gay pornography books, like romance novels and shit. I've done some Christian poetry. I've done voiceover for Christian poetry. I've done like a weird mix of a lot of different things. I would love it if somebody heard both my like book of Christian poetry I did and like one of the gay romance novels I've done. If you heard both of those, like, that's the same guy. Yes, it is. Oh shit. Christian poetry and gay porn arc. The Christian poetry book was alright. Gay porn book was better, I promise. The Washington Post have flipped over to their coverage now, so let's see what they're warming us up here, warming us up for the main event.
Leading a subcommittee that has been looking at referrals, ones that are strong, ones that are based on the work that the committee has found.
It looks like we are going to get a referral for inciting an insurrection.
What we plan to see moments from now. This committee.
Now, I do want to remind everybody that while we were getting a criminal referral from this congressional committee, it's largely symbolic.
For the summer and even into the fall.
This is not actually a criminal action being taken.
They will be voting on these referrals, the criminal referrals and perhaps other.
It will be a referral to the DOJ, where it will be in their hands, and they've already got multiple investigations into Trump.
Saying that they may drop some new information or at least confirm some other information that we've heard before. And I can tell you.
But it looks like it's not going to be the DOJ's decision, it will be the special prosecutor's decision. Also, clinically, Sky Comet, Warlord. Love you guys so much. So glad to have you here.
We'll be talking about something brand new after this is over.
Such a great point, Rhonda. I mean, these hearings have.
This should be a short one. This is supposed to only go about an hour.
Hearings that we have gotten used to on Capitol Hill over the years, which, you know, take
Gritty.
hours. These
Good evening. Or, I mean, good morning.
And they have.
I don't even know what fucking time it is. I've screwed up my schedule.
They have.
Good afternoon.
In fact, I looked up how many interviews that this committee did.
I'm assuming because McGritty needs a rundown in the chat.
50 interviews that they did.
Unable to hear me, but we are saying hey to you.
Substantial.
I'm gonna wave at you.
Now, as it stands, they've done over.
Somebody tell Server McGritty I was waving at him.
Much work that they've done in the last year and a half, and how many people have come forward. We've seen many testimonies.
Aww.
The committee has also done.
So we are more than likely going to get
In fact, while getting their report out, which is expected to drop.
A presentation that summarizes all of the previous
person of interest
January 6th committee hearings, so we should get like a 20-minute, 30-minute video
Deputy Chief of Staff for President
that summarizes everything. We're going to get a vote
and had a lot of knowledge about
on the release of the report that's going to be released on Wednesday. And I don't know if the vote on the release of the report is going to come first, or if we're going to have the votes on the criminal referrals. It looks like 3 different charges they are going to be voting on today. Now, I would assume they're not going to vote unless they knew what the outcome of the vote was going to be.
Right? 2 Republicans, the rest Democrats.
I would assume they are going to vote for the charge of inciting an insurrection. That's the big charge
of the United States. Now, we know, as Rhonda reported for us, of 3 that we expect
Phoebe, Sassy,
on the screen here.
afternoon.
We are likely to see today. Take us through them, James, and their significance.
Yeah.
So these are the 2 lesser charges.
Serious charges.
But they are very serious.
Sure, no former president has ever been charged with a crime in American history. Also, it's worth noting that criminal referrals to the Justice Department from Congress, which are pretty routine, rarely lead to charges. So this is not an indictment by any means. But we do know for sure.
Good afternoon.
They will recommend 3 charges. There are a couple others they had been talking about, and the subcommittee led by Jimmy Raskin. It'll be interesting to hear why they decided not to suggest something else like perjury or obstruction of justice or obstruction of a congressional investigation. But the first is an obstruction of an official proceeding of Congress. Essentially,
Pat McAfee came out to Seven Nation Army at WrestleMania. That was a super cool
people
entry.
who stopped Congress from doing its job of counting the electoral votes when they were supposed to be counted, and that Trump was a participant in that scheme.
Now, I do want to remind everybody, we're going to be going to the congressional hearing in about 20 minutes.
The second charge is a pretty.
I will go ahead and run down our schedule for this week. This is the first of a weird schedule because it is Christmas time.
When it's harder to get more specific.
On Saturday night,
he was
we will be doing a special troll patrol on Saturday night on Christmas Eve.
Won the election that he did not win.
Usually we broadcast on Sunday. This week it will be on Saturday. Saturday night, Christmas Eve troll patrol.
The rationale.
We will be tracking NORAD.
The article of
NORAD. We'll be watching NORAD tracking Santa's sleigh. We'll get the the last minute shopping videos of people fighting. Joe Biden calling some kids.
We've learned a lot during the 9 hearings this year.
That'll be Saturday night. Troll patrol Saturday night. Doesn't usually happen.
And
Gotta happen for Christmas Eve. Sunday night, no troll patrol.
To the
Sunday night, we're doing a freaking fucking around stream, and it will only be on Twitch because we're going to be watching some shit that is going to get us a copyright claim.
Specific names are going to be.
I say only on Twitch, but like I'll probably leave it up on DLive and all that shit.
Washington Post reporter covering the Justice Department. So Perry,
but of the major platforms that people are actually watching, it'll be on Twitch. Please join us on Christmas Day.
For a former president.
And we are going to watch. Let me give you a little example of what is in my folder of shit.
Investigatory powers, but they do not have. They cannot prosecute. So what they
have a whole folder called Christmas shit.
To the Justice Department.
We could I'm not saying we're going to watch all of this, but this is what I've got that we might quite possibly watch.
Legally speaking,
the Christmas with the Joker, the Batman the Animated Series, all kinds of Bob's Burgers, Christmas specials, Charlie Brown Christmas, Muppet Family Christmas, Garfield Christmas, Beavis and Butthead Christmas.
Looking into
Looney Tunes Christmas. We got Rugrats, we got Married with Children, Malcolm in the Middle, King of the Hill. I've seriously got every single Christmas special that is like ever aired on television. You want some Mickey's Christmas Carol? I got you covered. What about Mike Tyson's Mysteries? Goddamn right I do. Night Court? You want to watch the Night Court Christmas special? Because I do.
Of the former president. How is
I ain't watched Night Court in years. The Roseanne White Trash Christmas? Yeah, we might watch that one.
About this on Friday, and he was saying that
several South Park episodes, Ghostbusters, Tales from the Dark Side. I've even got a Law and Order Christmas.
Then
I got a Walker Texas Ranger Christmas special.
Issuing a criminal referral, But again, I mean,
Oh shit!
if
The
there's
X-Files.
enough evidence
How the
to
ghost
support
stole
the
Christmas.
charges, I don't think
Seriously,
that
every
they're calculating if
TV
they're-
Christmas special,
just because there
the
is
Captain
a
and
referral,
Tennille
it's
Christmas
legal
show
expert
featuring
and
Don Knotts.
to
We're
bring
gonna
forward-
watch that one
especially as a
because I wanted to watch it.
high-profile one
That
as
was
this
something
is
I
Justice
found
Department
last
would
year,
likely
and I tried to
want
watch
to
it with
ensure these
Sparkles, and
are
she's like, "I hate Don Knotts." We're
the-
watching the Captain and
the
Tennille
congressional
Christmas
committee
show.
doesn't
God
have that
damn it!
same evidence threshold, let's say, as prosecutors bringing forth a case. So just because
So that's what we're gonna do
enough evidence
on Christmas
doesn't
Day.
mean that prosecutors will.
I've got the Grinch. I got you covered.
Charges.
Perry, tell us about the work of this.
We
special
are
counsel,
going to go
Jackson.
all
What do you know
out.
about
We're
the
going to listen to
progress
some
that he's
Christmas
making
music. We're going to watch
and,
Christmas
and how the
specials.
action
I'll stay on
of the
until
special counsel are going so
late
far.
at night.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know much. It's a
We're gonna rock around the Christmas tree. That's Sunday night.
Intentionally. So, as you mentioned, there's a special counsel, Merrick Garland. Once Trump said he was running, and Biden announced his intent to run, he appointed a.
Happy to
special
spend Christmas with you
counsel. He thought
guys.
that was these are
It's gonna be a
extraordinary
lot of fun.
circumstances. He thought that was in the best
If you
interest
got
of
no
everyone
place else to
involved.
be, you're not gonna offend me if
the
you're not here
special
for any of the
counsel
Christmas
right now,
streams.
as far as we know, when they appointed,
Please go hang
Jack
out with
Smith,
your
he was
friends
still
and
in
family
The
and
Hague
loved ones.
working
But if
as
you
an international
you've already
judge
done
there.
your Christmas thing, or
Jackson
you don't have any
hasn't
Christmas
come
thing to
back
do,
since, but
come
the
hang
Justice
out with us and do the
Department is
Christmas
supposed to be
thing.
coming back, but what the Justice Department has said is that he is working and things are going as planned. We know
But you're
he
getting
has
close, Sky
subpoenas
Comet. By the
already.
time the January 6th hearing is over, you're only gonna have like an hour left.
Have been, targets or been at the center of.
So at least you got this to kind of get you through the end of it.
Perry, catch us up on the investigation involving those classified documents the FBI found at Trump's.
am not
Florida
high
home,
enough for
because
this
we're looking
shit.
at not just these January 6 allegations.
Also,
but
some of you
so
may
many
notice
other
that I'm wearing the same
aspects
clothes I
of
was
the
wearing
legal
last night on the show.
difficulties.
Could be because I got up out of bed before the show last night.
To do both the January 6th.
I haven't been to
those are
sleep
cases
since the
involving
show.
people who were not on the ground on January 6th.
Gonna try to take a nap and then come back on for the Troll
planning
Patrol
or
later
encouraging
tonight.
This. So that's what the special counsel is doing, but they are also.
What that news be doing? Apparently, Elon put up a poll last night, and Snoop Dogg running away with it. Snoop Dogg, of all the candidates for running Twitter.
I mean, in it, there haven't been charges yet.
I've heard about this Star Wars holiday
There
special.
will be,
Apparently,
but
it's
there
kind of
hasn't been
rare,
that
isn't it?
yet in this case,
Apparently, it's very, very
but
bad.
What we know is that it is an active investigation, and
But some of the names that got thrown out to possibly run Twitter, the quartering really wants to run Twitter.
Trump lost that case in court, and we got some details about
Snoop Dogg,
that they found.
Tom from MySpace threw his hat in the ring.
Documents, 103
Name in the
classified
hat?
documents marked as
Ring in the-
classified at Trump's
Toss
property,
his name in
and
the
those
ring? I don't
were
even
found
fucking know how it
after
goes.
They issued a subpoena, which they.
I don't even know what that
which Trump
means.
was-
Snoop Dogg is a
Trump was
sellout?
supposed to
What does that
hand over these
mean?
Documents, but then they still found 103 marked as classified.
Perry Stein, thank you so much. Thanks for keeping track of all of this. Appreciate
I
your
saw
time.
somebody say like that was his
Let's go
plan all
over
along to
these
step down.
other
I'm like, you
outstanding
think he's a
investigations.
calculating
We're gonna focus back to the
individual?
January 6th committee specifically in a moment, but it is important to put it in.
Well,
the
I'm sure he
context
regretted
of
taking
all
over
the
like the
President
moment he
Trump
took
is in.
over.
It's really astounding when you look at the scope of the various
Fucking thanks,
investigations that are
capitalism.
ongoing. This special counsel, Jack Smith, is sort of potentially overseeing January 6th related charges against Trump, if any emerge. And
Trump-related investigations, and there's
about-
fucking
but as you can
7
see on
of
the
them.
screen, in Atlanta.
No, 6.
Fulton
Sorry,
County is
I
there
can't
looking at
count.
Efforts to overturn the Georgia election, that infamous Trump call to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, where he asked him to bribe 11,000
Snoop has
votes.
mistakes older than
Manhattan
you.
District
Show some
Attorney just won
respect.
a big case.
It's like
against
a whole
Trump.
generation, and this is a
Being
meme.
brought on appeal.
A whole generation
New York
knows him
Attorney
as, you
General
know, the
Letitia James
cuddly
also investigating
dude
the Trump organization,
hanging out with Martha Stewart, not the guy that was once
trying
on
to
trial for
essentially
murder.
prevent Donald Trump and his family members from being corporate
Was
directors.
the case they
again.
gave
and
me.
then in
I fucked
Westchester
that song
County,
up.
which is just outside of New York City, the suburbs, the district attorney there is looking at whether Trump essentially committed tax fraud by undervaluing his golf course And,
I don't even know what Elon is
video.
thinking anymore.
We're also
Anybody that
seeing
attributes
Congress
any
meeting
kind
tomorrow
of
to
like
talk about potential
intelligence
releasing
or
Trump's taxes.
calculated
The Ways and Means
moves to
Committee has been
him,
fighting
like
for years
I
to
think he's
follow
having a
that.
midlife
Also,
crisis.
as
I
the
think he's
clock
going
ticks
fucking
down
nuts.
in the final weeks of the.
I think he's
Democratic
always
majority
been
in
a
the House,
fraud,
to
and
get
he's
everything
being
done
exposed
before
as a
Republicans
fraud.
can disband.
And then we have this weird
so a
fucking
lot
thing
of
where like the
moving
right
pieces in
wingers
the
are going
air,
to defend him no matter
and,
what.
Even if these criminal referrals don't lead to criminal
And
indictment.
it would appear that now we know
kind of
that the
indictment of
stalker, quote unquote,
which
was
concerns
actually a
everything else that's out
Grimes
there,
fan, and it had
24
nothing to do
maybe
with
more
him or his
than
jet.
any of these other investigations.
Rhonda, how has this January 6th committee been able to do some of the legwork and set the table for other investigations that are
We're
going
getting close, guys. About 15 minutes until we
Well, they have a very large staff.
take
They have
the
staff
committee
attorneys
hearing.
that
I
are
wanted to come
available to
on
them. They
early
also
enough to be
are
able to get the
invited
commercials
up
out of the way.
into
So
investigative
if you're on
groups.
Twitch and you're not
They're
subscribed, you're going to get a
live, and they
commercial
all
about
look at different
12:30,
aspects
or I'm
of
sorry,
the
1:30.
investigation into the 6th. So they did go in with a lot of organization.
I will
Remember,
try to
they seem
warn you
to
when
pick
that's
up a
coming
lot,
up.
Over the summer, when you had testimonies like those.
Be prepared if I don't, if I'm really into what's going on, but I wanted to do it so that you don't get cut off at the end. So it's an hour-long hearing. I didn't want the commercials to hit you at the end, so I didn't want to come on at like 12:55.
Members
I came
of
on
his
at
cabinet
12:30.
also shared information with this committee, so they all sort of came together.
Also dropped 2 freaking newses on you this morning.
And came up with all of the information.
One just premiered on YouTube that I had redirect to this.
To people who have watched this committee.
Not
do their
one,
work
but 2
throughout the
freaking
last
news.
year, and it has been. I won't say
The one that just premiered was highway workers find heart in a salt
So
pile.
much when you think about it, there was a question in the days after the 6th of what to do, how to investigate this.
I saw somebody say like Trump never told a lie when he was in office. I'm like,
Of
my.
what to do. There, of course, was that push to create a 9/11.
Like how do we even have a conversation who says something like that? Trump is an innocent man. Trump never told a lie. Like, how do I even engage with you? You don't live in reality.
Republicans didn't want to do that.
Oh, I do believe that's Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, isn't it?
Was established. It first had seats for Republicans, and then the Kevin McCarthy, who's the leader of the caucus over there in the House, he didn't want any of his
Phoebe,
on this
good
committee.
afternoon.
So there was a lot of argument of how to even approach investigating January 6th, and to see.
I just like, how do you even engage with somebody that is that
now are expecting
fantastical in their
criminal
thinking?
charges coming down or referred to the DOJ? It's pretty astounding.
Rhonda, you mentioned Cassidy
The
Hutchinson.
dude we watched the video of last night that kept calling me a pedo on my YouTube channel, I'm trying to get him to call in. He keeps wanting to
I was in the vicinity of a
come
conversation.
to my comments and run his
Say
mouth.
something to the effect of, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here.
Buddy, where you been? We've been watching these fucking
I'm the
hearings.
effing president.
Politically, thank you. Thank you for the bits.
To which Bobby responded, "Sir,
You guys just like that gif. You like seeing that gif.
the president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, 'Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol.' Mr. Trump then used his free hand.
How do we
towards
engage?
Bobby
Where's the
Engel.
proof of
I
crimes?
remember
We've watched
Pat saying something to
how
the
many
effect of,
committing hearings now? Like there's been 8, 9?
They're literally calling.
Where they spent hours laying out the case against him, and you're just like, well, where's the
I
crimes?
responded something to the effect of, "You heard him, Pat.
Sorry, you
He
haven't
thinks
been paying
Mike deserves
attention?"
it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong." To which Pat said something, "This is effing crazy."
Tape of
Does
Cassidy
Trump pay you for those
Hutchinson in her
blowjobs?
testimony. Rhonda?
And those were just snippets of what she told this panel.
Come
And
on, man,
remember,
get
she
Trump's
even
dick out of your
included
mouth.
that she was knowledgeable about requests.
Fuzzy face. It hasn't even started yet. We're just minutes away. About 10 minutes from getting started. You came just in time. War Machine. Good afternoon. Sometimes I like to suck. Let me see that dick. It might be nice. I might want to put it in my mouth.
Are mentioned as key elements of their findings.
James,
Oh, shit.
what does the committee want
You
to leave
live
the
in
American
sexual
public with here
anarchy?
as they prepare to really exit the stage of the public.
Okay, so I clipped the thing about Carrie Lake wanting to fuck Donald Trump, and I put that up as a short to TikTok. And somebody commented that Carrie Lake and Trump was like the best threesome they could think of. Count me in, and I'm like,
that can be taken. One of the things being done is the Electoral Count Act reform, which was actually passed in 1876.
I do enjoy the thumbnail I made for it, though.
Where there were disputes and claims of fraud. And we do expect that reform is going to be included in the end-of-year omnibus bill.
Junior, I don't. One, you being a veteran, like, doesn't make me respect you in any way.
Congress
do not care. Two, that is in the eyes of the law.
That's a little in the weeds, though.
Not in the eyes of a commentator, us giving our opinion. We can say Trump is guilty.
Along with the report later this week of all our interviews, we're going to lay out all the evidence that we accumulated. Maybe you saw it.
I'm sorry, War Machine. I'm sorry.
For the historical record, we want...
Oh my God, I was so hungry when I got off this stream last night.
This was not a spontaneous demonstration.
Clinically. Curiouser had made that pause.
Donald Trump was really the driving force behind one of the darkest days in American history.
Rhonda, let's talk about
it's so wild to me that the same people that are like innocent until proven guilty will lob fucking accusations at Joe Biden.
Notable
it was very good.
Not come before this committee are some Republican members of the House.
It was a little spicy too. I liked it.
That's
I liked it because it's spicy.
There was a group of Republican lawmakers who this
like a little kick in my pasta. There was Texas toast.
Their faces and names up right now. There was a large list, and it included Kevin McCarthy.
I'm sorry your cats are fighting.
To potentially become Speaker. Also, Andy Biggs, who is challenging McCarthy.
Bogey might be out there fighting.
Speaker. So you had this group, and the tactic that they used, and
I have no cat.
Were very frank about it, is that they wanted to kind of run the clock out when the
Tadpole. Good afternoon.
Away before they were expected to take.
Would you like to see the kitten before we get started on the hearing?
Did work with the committee. Mo Brooks, who was
the human heart in the salt brine for the
after he did not get reelected for his seat, but it does show you that
Tennessee Department of Transportation
question marks there with these members of Congress and what this committee might plan.
Can you guess what song I used for that one?
James, not only does this committee have to think about how to treat these House members who didn't come before them, who refused to come before them, they have to think about the fact that now the Republicans in this committee won't be back come January because they haven't been reelected or they chose not to put themselves up for reelection. But the Democrats on this committee, those who are coming back, they will be in the minority next year. And Republicans are already threatening to hold all sorts of investigations. So how much do members of Congress on this committee have to think about how to treat their own?
This has been weighing on them heavily. There have been a lot of debates about how to handle this, whether to do a criminal referral to hold members of Congress in contempt.
He was playing in the bathtub.
Not speaking to Congress.
He's all wet.
Or whether to refer them to the Ethics Committee. There's been an internal...
Now you fucking with some wet-ass pussy.
Look
at him, baby. Stop looking over
and one of the things that McCarthy has done...
He's like, I want to get down and play.
To the January 6th committee, save all your records because we're going to investigate the investigators. We're going to review all the work that you did and look for holes. Ultimately, I'm not sure he's actually going to do that because I think Republican leadership at this point in the House wants to move on and they don't want to spend 2023 relitigating the 2020 election and January 6, 2021. But essentially, that is one of the threats that McCarthy has made. He's also said, for example, that he's going to kick Adam Schiff off the Intelligence Committee, which is Schiff is one of the members of the January 6th committee. So it's certainly
he's very unhappy.
Kind of
Maynard is very unhappy.
Do unto others as you'd have done unto you kind of situation where it definitely is going to set a precedent. And they're cognizant.
The kitten,
of course, important to point out.
And the other cats are like, the other cats have accepted the kitten. Like I don't see them fighting that much.
This isn't, even though these House members...
Maynard still doesn't like the kitten. I saw Socks loving on the kitten last night. I was like, oh, that's so sweet.
To try to be, or to push for, either the House Ethics Committee or a law
Well, I think they've gotten over
enforcement
their
agency,
rally
There's also a general
stage.
principle too of if you don't enforce these subpoenas, then why would anyone come?
Other than Maynard, but Maynard's an asshole. So.
You know, Rhonda, we're seeing images right now of some of the police officers who fought to defend the Capitol, some of whom were badly injured and have been in this hearing room meeting after meeting, hearing after hearing to bear witness to this process.
I don't know what you mean re-upload streams on Twitch. The video, the VODs
when the public
stay up
phase
on
of the
Twitch. You
hearing
can go back
started,
and
I spoke
watch
with Sergeant
afterwards.
Goodell and also Harry Dunn,
Don't have
who,
to
we're seeing
upload
on the
anything.
screen right now on the days before the very first January 6th hearing, and I asked.
You're on YouTube. You can also, everything's on
They
YouTube.
said, you know, we put our bodies
Plus, I
on the
clip
line
everything,
to protect them. We just want them
put
to have
extra
answers.
content up.
So earlier today, I
Also,
talked
thank
to
you to
Sergeant
everybody that's
Goodell,
following me
and
on
he told me
TikTok.
how he was
I am
feeling
kind of
going
taking
into this,
off.
that, he thinks that they did uncover a lot, that they perhaps went over.
I've had like 30 new followers in the last 2 days.
Friday was his last day as a sergeant with the Capitol
like,
Police.
I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but just getting started on the TikTok.
It's hard to be in here with all of these reminders, and he also said that it's hard to be among Republican lawmakers who didn't even want to investigate this in the first place.
You should be able to find all the streams on YouTube.
Grappling with it, the people that they are
Because
putting their
even when I've had streams I've had to take down, I usually go back and edit what I need to edit out and then put them back up, and you'll see it like it'll say re-upload.
to look into or help further this committee. And of course, as we've been saying, this committee will.
And like last week we had an episode, like the stream dropped in the middle. I went, the two pieces are both up on YouTube, but I also put the whole thing up on YouTube.
And also, as we have known in the last year and a half,
Placed it on the replays
that
playlist. So if you go to the main page of my YouTube on the playlist,
you know, if it makes you wonder if
if you go into the replays, they should all be there.
Were to continue, would you uncover even more things? So that's on the minds of a lot of people who are in that.
Oh, there are some missing from the end of last year. About this time last year is when I had
investigation
strikes on my YouTube channel, and I got my YouTube channel taken away from me, and they gave it back, and it still had 2 strikes, so I had to like wait out the strikes.
Chose not to shake the hands.
So yeah, this time last year, like none of the live streams are up.
And Mitch McConnell in a very public way. I want to go now to Rachel Weiner, who's a reporter who's been covering the appellate courts in Washington and Richmond. Rachel,
I guess there are episodes that might be missing.
That are underway, separate from what's going on here, but of course, very connected. You've been reporting on the Oath Keepers trials. There's a second sedition trial happening now. Who does this one involve?
So
Get ready, get your drinks ready, get your marijuana
basically
ready to go. It is about time to get this party started.
It's the exact same charges, same conspiracy, but they decided they could not.
I don't know what you mean, any coverage of Carrie Lake.
And so they split it into 2. It's a big advantage, actually, I think.
What, do you want to watch her stupid ass entrance at the TPUSA event before we get started?
With founder Stuart Rhodes. Now
We can totally do that.
Has said he's willing to testify for any of the people who want him to testify in their defense, but I don't
She
think
looked
they want
really,
that.
really
They're very
stupid.
happy to not have this person who in some ways was, you know, the face of this
Such a
anti-government movement in court.
Oh my God, what in the fuck
What was
am
the
I?
government able to successfully prove in that first trial?
So they convinced the jury that Stuart Rhodes.
I'm sorry,
and one of his
I
deputies
go to Twitter and I
engaged in
see
a
Jordan
seditious
Peterson.
conspiracy against the
Oh
United
God, why do I have
States,
to be
but
exposed?
3 others were not convicted of that. They were all convicted of obstructing the congressional proceeding, which is the same charge former President Trump could face. But they found that only 2 of them.
Let's see if we can watch Carrie Lake's grand entrance at TPUSA. I think this happened yesterday afternoon. See if we can watch this real fast before we get 6th hearing. You want you some Carrie Lake coverage? Also, as someone who does production, like the amount of money it took to make that happen is insane. These people have god awful, way too much fucking money. TPUSA is a fucking grift. I mentioned it when we were looking at their set last night and shit. Look at that fucking stage. But they're not gonna go bankrupt. He's just spending fucking billionaire money all day long. They don't even have to turn a profit. That is insane. All right, now back to the serious news.
And not certify the vote at the time that they were planning to.
So we're seeing staff at the dais of this committee as they prepare for their members to come in. We believe this will be the final meeting, public meeting of the January 6th committee. We're talking right now to Rachel
I just want to remind everyone that that's an organization that people say is being censored, that Charlie Kirk has been censored. And if an organization with that kind of production value is telling you they are being censored or silenced, they are lying to you, and that is just a marketing ploy.
In American history, how has that lack of precedent shaped these trials you're covering?
I think it just...
Al Rittenhouse said it last night. Charlie Kirk is being censored.
But especially prosecutors don't even really have a basis of comparison for, you know, how this should go, what a jury might
The committee
think.
will be filing in any minute now.
Had a victory in that they convicted Stuart Rhodes and Deputy Kelly
Get your
Meggs.
pot ready.
It was in some ways a
Ready to
failure
take some
in that
rips.
they did not convict the other 3 people on trial in the first round, and they're face an uphill battle now because they have 4 people who had even less of a leadership role in Oath Keepers, and they have to convince a jury of this. I think even though they might not know the history exactly, jurors seem to be aware of the fact that sedition, just from the word, is a very potent political charge and might not be willing to go that far with people who were clearly deluded into thinking that this election was stolen and who were being told by the president that this election was stolen and that this was what they should do in response.
Well, then you need to hold the former president accountable then, don't you?
There's an unwillingness, at least among some of the public, to
Absolutely, he murdered
blame
people.
the conspiracy on these people who are maybe
Don't give me
more
that self-goddamn defense
being
bullshit.
used than they are directing.
There is no way that you
Rachel, we all
can
remember
be
that
armed
moment
with a
that
rifle and
President
shoot an
Trump told
unarmed
the crowd
person and claim
on
self-defense.
January 6th to fight like hell right before they marched to the Capitol and attacked it.
Because
Can he
if
be safer?
Rittenhouse
Well,
can
that's a
say
question
that he
the
felt
DC Circuit
threatened,
is currently
the other
debating. There was
person
just oral argument on
who
it,
is looking at a
and
child
Court
with
judge has said, yes, he can
who is
be
illegally
sued,
armed
that it
with a
basically
fucking assault
puts him
rifle,
into a conspiracy,
they
that it's
absolutely can
incitement to
claim
violence.
self-defense.
This is a panel that is not great for those who might like to see him party to lawsuit. 2 of the judges are ones he appointed to the DC Circuit, but I think there was a,
We'll see Rittenhouse behind bars, but
that,
my God, is he going to pay? He is never
a
going to
limit
have
to
any
free
money
speech,
to his name
that
because he is
this
going to
not
owe
just-
those families
you-
money after the
idea that
civil
his
action
lawyers
they
have
put him
forward,
through.
which is that
Ash, good afternoon. Welcome.
speech
We are just getting ready to
of any
get
kind
started
by a
here with the
president
January
is
6th committee hearing.
inherently political.
They should be walking out
politically
anytime.
important, and therefore cannot be the subject of a lawsuit. That's kind of absurd on its face. That the president can say things and.
I
do
look
things
forward
that,
to
open him
everything
up
that he
to
makes
litigation.
in
So I
his
think
life, all
there
that
is a good chance
TPUSA
that
money
the
he's going to be
Capitol police
getting,
officers
going to the
and
family of his
lawmakers
victims.
who have sought to sue the president for the physical and
And he's
psychological
going to
damage
George
that
Zimmerman
the
himself.
will succeed.
Do you know how many times George Zimmerman has been
Reporter covering
in
the
jail
public
since
watch.
he shot
Thank you
Trayvon
so much
Martin?
for your reporting on this.
He is a
James,
sad man
James,
trying to
where the
auction off bags of
responsibility
Skittles
Donald
he
Trump
signed.
begins and ends, and where the responsibility of the people who
So I can't
physically
wait for Rittenhouse
marched to the
to
Capitol,
face the same
broke into
fate
it, and
as
attacked
Zimmerman.
police officers with
Not the good Zimmerman, not George Zimmerman that you all know as Bob
More on
Dylan.
Trump than the
The
individual.
other George Zimmerman that shot Trayvon
Had
Martin.
several of the Proud Boys testify. They've aired videos of them saying we came because we thought Trump wanted us to come. Their focus really has been on making the case that this was Trump who convened all these people and less about the individuals. This has actually been a source of dispute within the committee because Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, the 2 Republicans, have wanted to keep the focus on Donald Trump, who they see as a singular threat to the republic. And some of the Democrats on
He's
the
not a
committee
singular
want to
threat.
make it more about the ecosystem that created Trump and that allowed Trump to thrive, and the people who were in Trump's orbit. And so this has
All
been
those people that were
ultimately,
texting Mark Meadows that we've now seen their text
the Cheney
messages
camp got their way.
that made one reporter go, "My God, they're dumb."
There were not hearings that had been floated earlier in the year that were sort of about the military response or about the police response. This really was a committee that drilled down deep on what Donald Trump did and didn't do in the run-up to January 6th, on the day of, those 187 minutes that the rioters were in the Capitol.
I was in class one time, and I had a professor
He still wouldn't.
that was like, "Do you guys know who George Zimmerman is?" I was like, "That's the dude that shot Trayvon Martin."
He still won't.
He still won't.
And he was like making a
Just
point
joining
about
us,
names or
waiting for
something.
this. What we think
Like,
will be
oh,
the final
I
meeting,
meant
the
Bob
final public
Dylan.
meeting of the January 6th committee. This is a business meeting, so we don't expect witnesses to testify. But as we know, this committee is very effective in needle drops, right, James?
And you
And
can
like in
see- yeah.
sharing news and breaking information, and they have been continuing to interview witnesses all along.
Exactly, including since the last hearing, which was before the midterm elections, remember? And so the one of the things I'm interested to see is whether we see any video.
Well, let's get this underway. The anticipation is killing me.
Secret Service related officials who Cassidy Hutchinson talked
The press
about.
in the gallery.
We just saw the clip a few minutes ago of Hutchinson saying, Engel reached for the president's arm, that kind of thing.
Exactly. That's why I get so upset over Seth Rollins stealing my freaking middle
They
name.
would go under oath and deny that had happened, but they went under oath, and there has been reporting that
Fuck
they
you, Seth
said
Rollins.
they didn't recall what happened. And so it really does ultimately validate Hutchinson if they can show what she said and then have these guys saying, "Oh, I don't remember whether that happened or not."
And there we see
Here we go.
Betty Thompson, Vice Chair Liz Cheney, and the rest of this committee coming to the
Not high enough for this
expecting
shit.
their final public meeting.
Everyone.
This is in the Cannon House office building in the newly named Speaker Nancy Pelosi caucus room, James.
And this is part of her legacy. She pushed this committee through when Republicans really turned
Nancy
on it. When the original
Pelosi
proposal
caucus
was gonna be
room.
bipartisan, fell apart. Nancy Pelosi really made this happen, and these are the final weeks of her speakership.
That where they caucus with
Not
each
only the
other
last time
and
we'll
give
see this committee
stock
publicly,
tips.
We believe the last time we'll see some of these members really speak on Capitol Hill before they.
It's the
prepare
last time you're going to see
Yeah,
Adam
Liz Cheney
Kinzinger
and Adam
because
Kinzinger
he
both
out of there in about a
last year.
week.
And Stephanie Murphy, the moderate Democrat
Elaine
from
Luria.
Orlando. Elaine Luria from the Virginia Beach area, a Democrat, also lost re-election.
All right. Let's go now.
Yeah, I forgot about
to
Luria.
The Speaker Nancy Pelosi caucus room and this business meeting of the January 6th committee. The big news out of this so far is we do expect them to make criminal referrals against former President Donald Trump.
We don't know exactly what's going to happen.
A quorum being present, the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol will be in order.
Quorum. Well, if you do, you'll clean it up.
The chair is authorized to declare the committee in recess at any point. Pursuant to House Deposition Authority Regulation 10, the chair announces the
That's a
committee's
Jim Cornette
approval to
joke.
release the deposition material presented during today's meeting, and further, its approval to release deposition material that accompanies release of the Select Committee's final report. Good afternoon, and may God bless the United States of America. To cast a
Fucking dogfighting is pretty
an act
shitty,
of
so.
faith and hope. When we drop that ballot in the ballot box, we expect the people named on the ballot are going to uphold their end of the deal. The winner swears an oath and upholds it. Those who come up short ultimately accept the results and abide by the rule of law.
I don't know anything
faith in
about
our
what
system
Michael Vick has
is
done
the
since. I think I've
foundation of
heard that he
American
actually does
democracy.
like raise
If the
money
faith
for abused
is
animals
broken,
and shit. That
so is our
he's
democracy. Donald Trump broke that faith,
turned himself
He
around,
lost
which
the
if so, that's
2020
cool.
election
It's like
and
Mike
he-
Tyson.
but he
He did the
chose to
crime,
try
he did
to
the
stay
time, he's
in
come out, he's
office
been a
through
much better
multi-part
person.
scheme to overturn the results and block the transfer of power. In the end, He summoned a mob to Washington, and knowingly they were armed and angry, pointed them to the Capitol and told them to fight like hell. There's no doubt about this. This afternoon, my colleagues will present our key findings, reminding you of some of the information we presented in earlier hearings and telling you how it fits in our broader conclusions. Those conclusions have helped shape the committee's final report, which we'll adopt today pursuant to House Resolution 503, which establishes the Select Committee nearly a year and a half ago. I expect our final work will be filed with the Clerk of the House and made public later.
Media Winch, I have
Beyond
missed
that release,
you.
the Select
I
Committee
haven't seen your
intends
face
to
in
make
so
public
long.
the bulk of its non-sensitive records before the end of the year. These transcripts and documents will allow the American people to see for themselves the body of evidence we've gathered and continue to explore the information that has led us to our conclusions. This committee is nearing.
I didn't tell the stream. I was watching that QAnon
but as
documentary.
a country, we remain in.
It was like the third episode, and they start talking about militias.
Never had a
They're
president.
like, and there's this county in California where the militias have taken over.
To block the transfer.
Carlos Zapata pops up on screen.
Nearly 2 years later.
They're like, yep,
this is
Shasta
still
County.
a time of reflection and reckoning. If we are to survive as a nation of laws and democracy, this can never happen.
Carlos sat down with them. Talked to the Vice reporters.
This committee will lay out a number of recommendations in this final report.
They went
But
like if
beyond
you haven't
any
watched, if you guys haven't watched that
details
QAnon
and
documentary,
recommendations we present,
the first season was
one
great,
factor
but like
I
the second
believe
one,
is most important.
like they go like
and
with
others
that
that were
overstock
sick.
executive, and that dude is batshit fucking crazy.
So today, beyond our findings, we will also show that
Sorry to talk
evidence
over
we
Thompson.
gathered
He's really fucking boring,
points
and he's just introing what we're
further
gonna do.
beyond the power of this committee or the Congress to help ensure accountability under law. Accountability
Yeah,
that
it's on
can
HBO.
only be found in the criminal justice.
No. Wait a minute. It's
We have
on
every
Vice
confidence
Land
that the work of
now.
this committee will help
Vice
provide
used to be
a
on
roadmap
HBO. I
for
don't think it
justice,
is anymore.
and that the agencies and institutions responsible for ensuring justice under the law.
Yeah, supposedly we're going to get one of those well-produced videos, and that's what you should
aid
start
in
with,
their
because
work.
if you start losing people's attention at the
those of
beginning,
you
and you
who have
are
followed this committee's
Chairman
work,
Thompson,
I hope we've helped make clear that there's a broader kind of accountability. Accountability to all of you, the American people. The future of our democracy rests in your hands. It's up to the people of this country to decide who deserves the public trust, who will put fidelity to the Constitution and democracy above all else.
are we going to try
Who
some
will abide
democracy?
by the
Are we gonna work on getting
no
rid of the
matter
Electoral
the
College and
outcome.
shit?
I'm grateful to the millions of you who followed this committee's work. I hope we lived up to our commitment to present the facts and let the facts speak for themselves. Let me say in closing,
But
the
there's
women and
a
men
there's a
seated around
pastor
me
that
on
started
this
saying we
dais
need an
are public
Electoral College
servants
for the
in the
senators.
most genuine sense. They
And then,
put
like,
aside
he didn't
politics
know
and
about the 17th Amendment.
to ensure the
He
success
used to
of
elect
this
that the
committee
legislature
in
used to
providing
pick the
answers
senators.
to the American people. I especially want to thank and acknowledge
Now he's on abolish the
who has
17th
become
Amendment
a true
now.
partner in
Who
this
we hanging up
bipartisan
on?
effort, Ms. Cheney of Wyoming. And I also recognize
Oh, clinically wants me to hang up on Benny Thompson.
the offer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your tremendous leadership of this committee. I know we all have benefited greatly from your wisdom and your wise counsel, so thank
I
you.
mean, they gave it over to Liz Cheney, so it's not much
In
better.
April of 1861, when Abraham Lincoln issued the first call for volunteers for the Union Army,
1861.
my great-great-grandfather, Samuel Fletcher Cheney, joined the 21st Ohio Volunteer Infantry. He fought through all 4 years of the Civil War, from Chickamauga to Stones River.
Did he shoot one of his friends too?
He marched with his unit in the Grand Review of Troops up Pennsylvania Avenue in May of 1865, past a reviewing stand where President Johnson and General Grant were seated. Silas Canfield, the regimental historian of the 21st Ohio Volunteer Infantry, described the men in the unit this way. He said they had a just appreciation of the value and advantage of free government and the necessity of defending and maintaining it. And they enlisted, prepared to accept all the necessary labors, fatigues, exposures, dangers, and even death for the unity of our nation and the perpetuity of our institutions.
Eat a dick, Liz.
I have found myself thinking often, especially since January 6th, of my great-great-grandfather and all those in every generation who have sacrificed so much for the unity of our nation and the perpetuity of our institutions. At the heart of our republic is the guarantee of the peaceful transfer of power. Members of Congress are reminded of this every day as we pass through the Capitol Rotunda. There, 8 magnificent paintings detail the earliest days of our republic. One, painted by John Trumbull, depicts the moment.
Yeah, I thought this was supposed to be a short one, but the way they're starting off, it doesn't seem like it's going to be very short now, does it?
Handing control of the Continental Army back to Congress.
This has nothing to do with the Continental Army. This has nothing to do with the Civil War.
Ever given the world. With this noble act, George Washington established the indispensable example of the peaceful transfer of power in our nation.
Oh yeah, you guys are right. She's wanting to grandstand a little bit because this is going to be one of her very last times to
Orderly
speak
transfer of authority as called for
as a congressperson. Because tick, tick, tick.
As it has for almost 2 centuries, and few of us stop to think how unique we really are. In the eyes of many in the world, this every 4-year ceremony that we accept as normal is nothing less than a miracle. Every president in our history has defended this orderly transfer of authority.
I don't know exactly what she's going to do. I'm a lobbying firm.
2021 was the first time.
And on the board of a oil company, possibly.
Duty
Halliburton, like her dad.
To the next. In our work over the last 18 months,
I think she has higher ambitions, though. I think we're not done with Liz Cheney.
We can to ensure this never happens again. At the beginning of our investigation, we understood that tens of millions of Americans.
Oh, she'll absolutely be okay.
Persuaded by President Trump.
I don't think we've heard the she has higher political ambitions.
Fraud. And we also knew this was flatly false. We knew that dozens of state and federal judges had addressed and resolved all manner of allegations about the election. Our legal system functioned.
And to be honest with you, I wouldn't put it past the liberals to rehabilitate her, and absolutely,
shameful.
we're gonna be saluting Democratic President Liz Cheney here in about 8 years.
Watching the violent riot at the Capitol on television.
Indeed, ooh. Roger Sterling, New York.
Public statement.
Thank you for being a freaking follower.
Disperse and leave the Capitol.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol.
Pleas from his White House staff and dozens of others to do so. Members of his family, his White House lawyers.
Yeah, we're doing the January 6th hearing right now. I'm not taking phone calls.
This act was critical.
Come back tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Do it. During this time, law enforcement agents were
I'd love to talk to you.
Seriously injured. The Capitol was invaded, the electoral count was halted, and the lives of those in the Capitol were put at risk. In addition to being unlawful, as described in our report, this was an utter moral failure and a clear dereliction of duty. Evidence of this can be seen in the testimony of President Trump's own White House counsel and several other White House witnesses. No man who would behave that way at that moment in time can ever serve in any position of authority in our nation again.
He shouldn't. You say again, he shouldn't have been there in the first place.
The committee recognizes that our work has only begun. It's only the initial step in addressing President Trump's effort to remain in office illegally. Prosecutors are considering the implications of the conduct that we describe in our report, as are citizens all across our nation.
In
1761, John Adams wrote, The very ground of our liberties is the freedom of
Ma'am, we didn't come here to drink
faith in our
beer.
elections, and the rule of law is paramount.
Oh, wait a minute. That's Samuel Adams, isn't it? My
Election
bad.
deniers, those who refuse to accept lawful election results,
Hung Bostonian.
purposely attack the rule of law and the foundation of our country. The history of our time will show that the bravery of a handful of Americans doing their duty saved us from an even more grave constitutional crisis. Elected officials, election
You know,
workers,
I'm not
and
high
public
enough for this
servants
shit clinically.
stood against Donald Trump's corrupt pressure. Many of our committee's witnesses showed selfless patriotism, and their words and
Supposedly, we're supposed to get a.
the brave men
Supposedly,
and
we're
women of
supposed
the
to.
Capitol
That
Police,
was redundant.
Metropolitan Police,
Supposedly,
and
we're
all the
getting
other law enforcement
a
officers who fought to defend us that
presentation. We're
day,
getting a video.
saved lives and our democracy. Finally, I wish to thank my colleagues on this committee. It has been a tremendous honor to serve with all of you. We have accomplished great and important things together, and I hope we have set an example.
You live in sexual
And I
anarchy.
also want to thank all of those who have honorably contributed to the work of our committee and to our report. We have accomplished much over a short period of time. Many of you sacrificed for the good of our nation. You have helped make history, and I hope helped to right the ship. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. As you know, this is our final meeting of our committee.
They're all going to talk, by the way.
Last year and a half, we presented evidence in 10 public hearings, testimony from our brave law enforcement officers, senior White House and campaign officials, and many others. Today, we are prepared to share our findings with you. But before we do so, it's important to remember what we've learned, and critically, exactly what happened at the United States Capitol on January 6th. Without objection, I include in the record a video presentation of some of the key evidence our investigation has uncovered.
This is what you should have started with. You need a good communications person.
There were officers on the ground. They were bleeding. They were throwing up. I mean, I saw friends with blood all over their faces. I was slipping in people's blood.
As I was swarmed by a violent mob, they ripped off my badge. They grabbed and stripped me of my radio. They seized ammunition that was secured to my body. They began to beat me with their fists and with what felt like hard metal objects.
The key thing to do is to claim victory. No, we won. Fuck you. Sorry, over. We won. Yeah. You're wrong. Fuck you.
Right out of the box on election night, the president claimed that there was major fraud underway. I mean, this happened.
He started claiming fraud long before election night.
Potential of looking at evidence.
I didn't think what was happening was necessarily honest or professional at that point in time. So that led to me stepping away.
Generally discussed on that topic was whether the fraud, maladministration, abuse, or irregularities, if aggregated and read most favorably to the campaign, would that be outcome determinative? And I think everyone's assessment in the room, at least amongst the staff, Mark Short, myself, and Greg Jacob, was that it was not sufficient to be outcome determinative.
I told him that I did believe, yes, that once those legal processes were run, if fraud had not been established that had affected the outcome of the election, then unfortunately I believed that what had to be done was concede the outcome.
What were the chances of President Trump winning the election?
After that point?
Yes.
None.
So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
Get that door back.
The numbers are the numbers. The numbers don't lie. We had many allegations, and we investigated every single one of them.
Did one of them make a comment that they didn't have evidence, but they had a lot of theories?
That was Mr. Giuliani.
And what exactly did he say and how that come up?
My recollection, he said,
We've got lots of theories, we just don't have the evidence.
Stupid?
You're
You think
asking
we're
me
fools?
to do something that's never been done in history, the history of the United States. And I'm going to put my state through that without...
Clinically, apparently it did. Georgia is going to prosecute him on that.
Tape earlier in the day of Ruby Freeman,
Pepe,
Freeman
good
Walsh,
afternoon.
and one other gentleman, quite obviously surreptitiously passing around USB ports as if they're vials of heroin or cocaine.
In one of the videos we just watched, Mr. Giuliani accused you and your mother of passing some sort of USB drive to each other.
Like it's cocaine.
What was your mom actually handing you on that video?
A ginger mint. Do you know how it feels to have the President of the United States to target you? The President of the United States is supposed to represent every American, not to target one.
And I think she might have been one of the women that was harassed by Kanye West's assistant.
The idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit.
He wanted to talk about that he thought the election had been stolen or was corrupt.
Kind of bullshit at a bar.
Widespread fraud. And I had told him that our reviews had not shown that to be the case.
And I said something to the effect of, sir, we've done dozens of investigations, hundreds of interviews. The major allegations are not supported by the evidence developed.
Well, my first thought was, this is a terrible idea. Jeff Clark cannot be installed as acting Attorney General of the United States.
You ultimately told us that you described this meeting as not this meeting, the Georgia letter that was proposed as an effing murder-suicide pact. Do you remember using the term murder-suicide pact?
Yes.
Cipollone, like, I really liked him throughout this entire hearing, but like, how the fuck are you a Republican, dude, if you're intelligent?
On these issues to the president, not just to the world through a dear colleague letter, but directly to President Trump.
Many times. My view was that the vice president didn't have the legal authority to do anything except what he did.
And I said, hold on a second, I want to understand what
this guy's really funny.
You believe
Eric
the vice
Hirschman,
president, acting as president of the Senate, can be the sole decision maker as to, under your theory, who becomes the next president of the United States?
Freak, good afternoon.
And you said yes. I said, are you out of your effing mind?
The president was, all the attention was on what Mike would do or what Mike wouldn't do.
There's a telephone conversation between the president and the vice president, is that correct?
Yes.
The conversation was pretty heated.
Apologize for being impolite, but do you remember what she said her father called him?
The P word.
He's a pussy.
It was clear that it was.
Trump called Mike Pence a pussy.
So then when that tweet, the Mike Pence tweet, was sent out,
you know what Trump does to pussies?
That was the last thing that needed to be tweeted at that moment. It felt like he was pouring gasoline on the fire by tweeting that.
They've gained access to the second floor, and I've got public about 5 feet from me down here below.
Okay, copy. They are on the second floor, moving in now. We may want to consider getting out and leaving now. Copy.
The members of the BPT at this time were starting to fear for their own lives. There were calls to say goodbye to family members, so on and so forth.
Approximately 40 feet. That's all there was. 40 feet between the vice president and the mob.
Donald Trump and his allies and supporters are a clear and present danger to American democracy.
We got derogatory information from OSINT suggesting that some very, very violent individuals were organizing.
Fucking Pepe memes.
As Mr. Giuliani and I were walking to his vehicles that evening,
pussies are warm and wonderful. Mike Pence does not have those qualities.
Excited for the 6th. It's going to be a great day. I remember looking at him saying, "Rudy, could you explain what's happening on the 6th?" He had responded something to the effect of, We're going to the Capitol. It's going to be great. The president's going to be there. He's going to look powerful.
You think we're stupid? You think we're
He
fools?
personally asked for us to come to D.C. that day. And I thought, for everything he's done for us, if this is the only thing he's going to ask of me, I'll do it.
Well,
Buddy, what do you mean everything he's done for you?
you know, got everybody riled up, told everybody to head on down. So we basically...
What, Trump hasn't made an ask of you before? He hasn't asked you to buy Trump steaks? Spend money at his fucking casinos? He hasn't asked you to support the MAGA movement and give to his campaign like fucking 5 emails a day? I find that hard to believe. Doesn't want you to spend $99 on a digital trading card?
So are you aware of any phone call by the President of the United States to the Secretary of Defense that day?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Are you aware of any phone call by the President of the United States to the Attorney General of the United States that day?
No.
Are you aware of any phone call by the President of the United States to the Secretary of Homeland Security that day?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Did you ever hear the the president ask for the national guard? Did you ever hear the president ask for law enforcement?
Org! Good afternoon.
No. You got an assault going on the Capitol of the United States of America. And there's nothing. No call, nothing, zero.
I remember Pat saying something to the effect of, Mark, we need to do something more. They're literally calling for the vice president to be effing hung. And Mark had responded something to the effect of, you heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong.
You on the staff did not want people to leave the Capitol.
Trump.
On the staff?
Desert Q! It is 1 p.m. on the East Coast.
I can't think of anybody, you know, on that day who didn't want people to get out of the Capitol once the, particularly once the violence started. No. I mean,
Trump.
What about the president?
Yeah.
Well, she said the staff. So I answered.
No, I said in the White House.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I thought you said who else on the staff. I can't reveal communications, but obviously I think,
I think you know.
Yeah.
I said,
yeah.
I'm going to give you the best free legal advice you're ever getting in your life. Get a great effing criminal defense lawyer. You're going to need it.
General Flynn, do you believe in the peaceful transition of power in the United States of America?
Another officer, I'm trying
Welcome. Thank you for being a freaking follower.
I don't want to say the election's over. I just want to say Congress has certified the results without saying the election's over, okay?
The chair now recognizes the gentlewoman from California.
He still didn't want to say the election was over after January 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over the last 18 months, the Select Committee has conducted a congressional investigation of enormous scale, seeking to uncover the depth and breadth of ex-President Trump's multi-part plan to reverse the lawful outcome of the 2020 presidential election. We've compiled an immense volume.
Congratulations on your gig on January the 6th.
Countless individuals, law enforcement agencies, and federal and state authorities. Many of our efforts to get the
Hold on, I gotta let Smokey in.
litigation in federal court, including the U.S. Supreme Court. We've taken the testimony of hundreds of witnesses. Now, while we couldn't show them all during the hearings, We focused on those who were most central, including our ex-president's White House aides, his senior Department of Justice officials,
You guys have
senior
cats in
members
Russia?
of his campaign. Based on this assembled evidence,
I know you got cats.
the Select Committee has reached a series of specific findings. And many of these findings pertain to what has been called
You missed the video. The video is probably going to be the best part.
led by ex-President Trump to spread baseless accusations and misinformation in an attempt to
This is Representative Zoe Lofgren.
tens of millions of Americans that the election had been stolen from him. Beginning even before the election and continuing through January 6th and thereafter, Donald Trump purposely disseminated false allegations of fraud in order to aid his effort to overturn the 2020 election. Ex-President Trump's decision to declare victory falsely on election night wasn't a spontaneous decision. It was premeditated. The committee has evidence that ex-President Trump planned to declare victory and unlawfully to call for the vote counting to stop.
See, sorry I didn't point out the ads on Twitch.
About his intent in the weeks before the election. The committee found that Mr. Trump raised
Media Winch has a kitten as well.
false representations
We've been sharing
made
kitten
to his
pictures back
online
and forth.
donors. The proceeds from his fundraising, we have learned, have been used in ways that we believe are concerning. In particular,
I love you,
the
Merkin.
committee has learned that some of those funds were used to hire lawyers. We've also obtained evidence of efforts to provide or offer employment.
Motherfucker right here. Let me see what you just
For
put in this
example,
chat.
one lawyer told a witness the witness could, in certain circumstances, tell the committee that she didn't recall facts when she actually did recall them. That lawyer also did not disclose who was paying for the lawyer's representation, despite questions from the client seeking that information. He told her, quote, "We're not telling people where funding is coming from right now." We've learned that a client was offered potential employment that would make her, quote, "financially very comfortable" as the date of her testimony approached by entities that were apparently linked to Donald Trump and his associates. These offers were withdrawn or didn't materialize as reports of the content of her testimony circulated. The witness believed this was an effort to affect her testimony, and we are concerned that these efforts may have been a strategy to prevent the committee from finding the truth.
Yeah, you can't let children in here. I might groom them.
Ex-President Trump was told repeatedly.
That's what all the Christians keep telling me.
Government officials, and others, there was no evidence to support his claims of election fraud. Even since our last
Did Media Winch send me a kitten picture? Yes, she did.
from new witnesses who've come forward to tell us about their conversations with ex-President Trump on this topic. Here is one of his senior advisors, Hope Hicks.
Seeing evidence
We're coming back to the video. I'll give you a kitten picture here in a second.
fraud on a scale that would have impacted the outcome of the election, and I was becoming increasingly concerned that we were damaging his legacy.
What did the president say in response to what you just described?
He said something along the lines of, nobody will care about my legacy if I lose. So that won't matter. The only thing that matters is winning.
Despite all
Where's Hope Hicks now? Is she along for the second ride?
False claims, sometimes within a day of being told that a particular claim was false and unsupported by the evidence. By the time the Electoral College met to cast its votes,
Here is Media Winch's cute as fuck little baby.
Trump's senior staff, cabinet officials,
Look at that fluffy face.
urging him to facilitate a peaceful transition to the incoming administration. He disregarded their advice, and he continued to claim publicly that the election had been stolen from him.
Went from a fluffy face to I don't want to make comments.
Evaluated and rejected the Trump campaign's claims of voter fraud, including 11 judges appointed by ex-President Trump himself. Many of these courts issued scathing opinions, criticizing the lack of evidence that ex-President Trump and his allies had advanced to support their claims. Numerous individuals associated with these efforts have
But then all the dumbasses that are still riding Trump's dick will tell you that, like, well, they didn't actually weigh the evidence. They threw it out for things like not having standing. Idiots.
Ex-President Trump repeated those false claims and tried to convince his supporters the election was stolen. This was an attempt to justify overturning the lawful election results. Donald Trump knowingly and corruptly repeated election fraud lies, which incited his supporters to violence on January 6th. He
I don't want to say I'm
repeat
for the
his
wall.
meritless claim that the election was stolen even today, and continues to erode our most cherished and shared belief.
Oh yeah, he is running in 2024 on 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentlewoman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Schiff, for an opening statement.
What's up, Adam Schiff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Building on his constant repetition of the big lie, President Trump engaged in an unprecedented effort to obstruct the joint session on January 6th, the proceeding where his electoral loss would be certified by Congress. This effort began in part in the states, which hold, count, and ultimately determine the winners of presidential elections. Many state officials were targeted by President Trump and his campaign.
Oh, Starlight, that wasn't what we were talking about.
Baselessly, state officials he pressured to stop the count or to find votes that didn't exist, and the state legislative officials he urged to disregard the popular
We weren't talking about building a wall. We were talking about throwing people against one.
in order to name him the winner instead. Here are the Select Committee findings about President Trump's state pressure campaign. President Trump and his enablers repeatedly pressured state officials to take action.
They hate him.
The results of the election. The most dramatic
They hate Adam
campaign
Schiff.
of coercion was the president's
Dustin.
January 2nd,
Good afternoon.
2021 call to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, in which the president urged the secretary to find 11,780 votes.
I keep saying it on my Patreon thing, like I could totally sell out if it wasn't for the fact that I have ethics.
Again, repeated conspiracy theories about the election that his own appointees
Astro 2D, what is up, my friend?
already debunked. Trump also made what Secretary Raffensperger apparently considered a threat, accurately considered a threat, suggesting that Raffensperger and his attorney that they could be.
But here's the thing: is Raffensperger still said he would like support Trump if Trump was the nominee.
Then, in repeated telephone calls and in-person meetings,
I need it. I ain't high enough for this
state
shit.
elections officials and state legislators to alter official election results. But courageous public servants, including Republicans like Rusty Bowers, held firm and refused to put Donald Trump over their oath to the Constitution.
Rusty
When Donald
boners
Trump's
over
pressure
here.
campaign did not achieve the results he wanted, he oversaw an effort to obtain and transmit false electoral college ballots to Congress and the National
Wait, Steelers, are you just now realizing that they have a strong case?
fake Republican electors on December 14th.
Where were you at on January 6th?
Certified electors in those states were meeting to cast their votes for President Biden. By that point in time, election-related litigation was over in all or nearly all of these states, and Trump campaign election lawyers realized that the fake slates were unjustifiable on any grounds and may be unlawful. In spite of these concerns,
Special counsel, the special prosecutor, Jack Smith, has indeed subpoenaed people in relation to these fake electors.
Evidence that these intentionally false documents were transmitted to multiple officers of the federal government and were intended to interfere.
I mean, normal Republican means fucking fascist
Where
now.
the existence of so-called competing slates of electors would serve as a pretext.
There is no such thing as a moderate Republican.
Rejected.
Liberal Republican. The Republican Party has purged anybody with any goddamn sense from
Do
it.
his bidding, as well as local.
Even Rush Limbaugh said it right before he died.
Accused of fraud. As Ruby
As a
Freeman,
conservative, it's getting
and the
harder and
testimony
harder
of
to not
other
look like a
elections
kook.
officials so powerfully demonstrated, the people who drew President Trump's ire or were the subject of his lies faced real-world consequences.
Astro, I like you.
Public
You my
harassment
friend now.
and death
Manchin
threats.
is a moderate Republican.
Some
Good
of these
call.
elections workers and officials have been forced to leave their homes.
Joe Biden is a moderate Republican.
Jobs they loved. Take a listen to Ms. Freeman's story.
There's no moderate Republicans in the Republican Party anymore.
Introduce myself by my name anymore. I get nervous when I bump into someone I know in the group.
And this woman is awesome, by the way. We ended up looking into her. Like, she is a fixture of the community.
I get nervous when I have to give my name for food orders. I'm always concerned of who's around me. I've lost my name and I've lost my reputation.
The treatment of Ms. Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss and so many others around the country was callous, inhuman, inexcusable, and dangerous. And those responsible...
Buddy, I don't know what you want for a defense.
Mr.
I mean, you heard from people that were in the Trump administration. Who do you think was in the fucking video? You heard from the lawyers who worked in the White House. You heard several of them take the fifth to not incriminate themselves.
Components of our federal government is the Department of Justice. It's the body that it's responsible for enforcing our laws and investigating criminal wrongdoing. For this reason, it's of the utmost importance that our Department of Justice operates as a fair and neutral body that enforces our federal laws without fear or without favor. It is this critical function that President Trump sought to corrupt, as he sought to use the Department of Justice to investigate and prosecute purported election fraud and to help him convince the public that the election was stolen. The Select Committee has made the following findings.
Yeah, that one, Ruby is awesome. Because we ended up the Atlanta Constitutional Journal, Atlanta Journal-Constitutional did a piece on her.
Advised President Trump that the Department of Justice had not seen any evidence to support Trump's theory that the
Steelers, we will see, and you will see that Donald Trump is fucking guilty as fuck. All of his, every time, like, his company was just found guilty. On like 7 fucking counts, all 7 counts. Guilty.
Numerous election fraud claims, many of which the president would then go on to repeat publicly. And he made clear
we here on the stream watched the impeachment hearing. His defense wasn't good.
Service to the country by pursuing them. After Attorney General Barr's resignation,
unfortunately, you just couldn't get to the 2/3 of the Senate needed to convict him because Republicans are craven.
Just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressmen. In other words, just tell a small lie to put the facade of legitimacy on this lie, and the Republican congressman and I can distort and destroy and create doubt all ourselves. Between December 23rd and January 3rd, President Trump called or met with them nearly every...
Because you have to have 2/3 of the Senate, and there wasn't enough Republicans to vote to impeach him.
No factual support
to convict him. He was impeached. He was impeached twice.
Mr. Rosen
was not
and Mr.
convicted
Donahue
because Republicans are just craven assholes that care more about power.
As Mr. Rosen and Mr. Donahue continued to resist, President Trump then tried to install a loyalist named Jeffrey Clark to lead the department as acting Attorney General. On several occasions, Clark met with the president, apparently along with Representative Scott Perry, without authorization, promising to take the actions that Barr, Rosen, and Donahue had refused to take. In particular, Mr. Clark intended to send a letter that he had drafted with the help of a political appointee that the White House installed at DOJ with just weeks left in the administration. Mr. Clark intended to send the letter to officials in numerous states, informing them falsely, of course, that the department had identified significant concerns about the...
Buddy, do you trust fucking Trump?
And encouraging their state...
Like, listen to yourself.
...into special session.
Yes, I trust Cheney, Schiff, and Kinzinger over Trump. Hands down.
Here's acting Deputy...
Go ahead, good afternoon, my friend.
...describing his reaction to Mr. Clark's proposed letter.
and drafting letters without the knowledge of what the department.
Absolute Dustin, nail on the head. I trust the video and the text message evidence. I trust all the people who have testified that Trump was guilty as fuck.
Nothing less than the United States Justice Department meddling in the outcome of a presidential election.
Knowing that existing department leadership would not support his false election claims, President Trump offered Mr. Clark the job of acting Attorney General. In a dramatic January 3rd meeting in the Oval Office, Rosen Donahue, White House counsel Pat Cipollone, and White House lawyer Eric Hirschman strongly objected to the appointment of Jeffrey Clark as acting Attorney General. Mr. Clark pleaded his
and used some colorful language. That's what made me earn respect for Cipollone and
White House
Hirschman.
counsel called the Clark letter, quote, a murder-suicide pact. Numerous White House and Department of Justice lawyers all threatened to...
Not that I know of, Astro.
Clark was appointed.
Unless Jack Smith is in possession of it.
Be leading a graveyard. It was
well, I mean, you seem to be defending Donald Trump, who is totally a fascist, so...
His offer to Mr. Clark. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Former President Trump's multi-part plan didn't stop with the states or with the Department of Justice. It touched nearly every component of our federal system, ranging from the courts to Congress to his own Vice President, Mike Pence. In the weeks before January 6th, Mr. Trump turned to the man who had served him loyally for 4 years. He embraced an illegal scheme proposed by John Eastman and others who concocted an unfounded legal theory that the vice president could reject Joe Biden's electoral votes during the joint session. When Vice President Pence and many others, including Trump's own lawyer, John Eastman, told him correctly that former President Trump spearheaded an unprecedented campaign to coerce him to do it anyway, ultimately culminating in a dangerous threat to Mr. Pence's life on January 6th.
Don't mind if I do.
These are the Select Committee's findings with respect to the pressure campaign against the Vice President. John Eastman admitted in advance of the 2020 election that Mike Pence could not lawfully refuse to count official electoral votes. But he nevertheless devised a meritless proposal that deployed a combination of bogus election fraud claims and the fake electoral ballots to say that Mike Pence, presiding over the joint session, could reject legitimate electoral votes for President-elect Biden. But still, President Trump accepted...
This dude looks whack. Look at the face he's making.
...and used it to pressure the vice president to take unlawful action. In multiple heated conversations, President Trump directly pressured Vice President Pence to adopt the Eastman theory and either reject the electors or send them
Fascism is a far-right, hyper-nationalist political viewpoint.
And repeatedly told the president
is anti-democratic.
He did not possess the authority to do what President Trump directed. This culminated
politically. I don't doubt it, because Pence is trying to run for office in 2024.
Trump and Vice President Pence, during which the former president.
But like that is one of the, like, as delusional as Trump is, fucking Pence thinking he has a chance at being president is even more delusional.
Was one of the many witnesses who heard the call as it happened. Take a listen at Mr. Luna's testimony.
Did you hear any part of the phone call, even if just the end that the president was speaking from?
I did, yes.
All right, and what'd you hear?
So as I was dropping off the note, my memory, I remember hearing the word wimp. Either he called him a wimp. I don't remember if he said, you are a wimp, you'll be a wimp. Wimp is the word I remember. Something to the effect, this is, the wording's wrong.
Oh, he didn't use pussy?
Decision 4 or 5 years ago.
In the face of the vice president's resistance, the former president and others exerted both private and public pressure to change his mind. In his speech on the Ellipse on the afternoon of January 6th, former President Trump told the crowd that Vice President Pence needed the courage to do what he has to do. Once the riot began, President Trump deliberately chose to issue a tweet attacking Mr. Pence, knowing that the crowd had already grown violent. Almost immediately thereafter, the crowd around the Capitol surged, and between 2:30 and 2:35 p.m., the Metropolitan Police line on the west front of the Capitol broke. This was the first time in MPD history that a line like this had broken. Rioters at the Capitol were heard chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," through the afternoon. As a result of this unrest,
the right-wingers will always bring it up, and like it is true, like that fucking
where he actively
that gallows right there couldn't hang anybody.
And other
that's just a symbol.
The ongoing violence. Mr.
It was like 4 foot tall.
Gentleman yields
and
back.
it wasn't well made at all.
From Florida, Ms. Murphy, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ultimately, President Trump did not succeed in bending state and federal officials to his will. At every turn, state officials—
I don't even know who you are. Have you been in the other hearings?
—and many others stood up for the rule of law and resisted the president's wishes. In that way, our American institutions held after the 2020 election. But that did not stop President Trump. Instead, he turned to his supporters, those who believed his lies about a stolen election. He summoned a crowd to the nation's capital on January 6th, hoping that they would pressure Congress to do what he could not do on his own.
I guess you just got a forgettable face or something. I'm sorry, Mrs. Murphy.
2 years ago
today,
today,
congressperson from
in the
Florida.
early morning hours of December 19th, Donald Trump sent a tweet urging his supporters to travel to Washington for a protest on January 6th. "Be there, we'll be wild," he tweeted. Between December 19th and January 6th, the president repeatedly encouraged his supporters to come to Washington. The president's December 19th tweet galvanized domestic violent extremists, including members of
and we know for a fact that Roger Stone, who coordinated with the White House, also coordinated with the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers,
to come to the Capitol in large numbers with the specific intent to use violence to disrupt the certification of the election during the joint session. Prior to January 6th, the FBI, Secret Service, U.S. Capitol Police, D.C. government, and other law enforcement agencies gathered substantial evidence suggesting—
I not only watched it live, there is video of me watching it live and being flipped out by what happens.
These included warnings like the following.
There is video of me coming on telling everybody it's going to be a boring day.
Take this tip seriously and investigate further. President Trump supporters have proposed a
Wait, was I wrong?
high Capitol Hill.
Like, this is just a routine hearing. It's going to take forever because these senators are going to object.
I saw several other alerts saying they will storm the Capitol if he doesn't do the right thing.
I was not expecting the riots actually making it to the Capitol.
Explicitly told him that he should encourage his supporters to be peaceful that day, but he refused. One witness, Hope Hicks, provided the committee with records of her text messages.
We watch clips. I usually do a clip show on 420. That's the anniversary of the Troll Patrol.
Hey, I know you're seeing this.
That's what we did indeed watch me react to the fucking insurrection on the 420 show.
I'm not there, Hicks replied. I suggested it several times Monday and Tuesday, and he refused. When Ms. Hicks came in to provide testimony to the committee,
acted a lot like Antifa. Dude, you're an idiot.
Is that the he in this text wasn't the president, but rather
they acted exactly like the right-wing militias that they are. Like during the 2020 protests, most of the violence was caused by right-wingers. I'm sorry. You guys and your obsession with talking about Antifa, like it's idiotic.
Several times Monday and Tuesday, and he
right-wing extremists are responsible for the vast majority of extremist-related murders over the last decade.
I didn't speak to the
76%,
directly, but I communicated people like Eric Hirschman that it was my view that it was important that the president put out some kind of message in advance of the event.
And what was Mr. Hirschman's response?
Mr. Hirschman said that he had made the same, recommendation directly to the president, and that he had refused.
Just so I understand, Mr. Hirschman,
you say,
he had already recommended to the president that the president convey a message that people should be peaceful on January 6th, and the president had refused to do that?
Yes.
The public will be able to review this in the transcripts and see the perspective Eric Hirschman gave before we took Hope Hicks's testimony. Despite having knowledge of the threats of violence presented by the crowd gathered on January 6th, President Trump gave an incendiary speech, declaring without basis that the election had been stolen and encouraging his supporters to fight like hell. And during the speech and immediately thereafter, President Trump stated his intention to travel to the Capitol with his supporters.
You gotta love how Steelers
joint session. The Select Committee has developed evidence
downplays the insurrection, and then is like, what about the FBI working with Twitter? Buddy, right-wing media plays you like a fucking fiddle.
During the afternoon and in the days prior. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentlewoman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Virginia, Mrs. Luria, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All of President Trump's efforts came to a head on the afternoon of January 6th. Standing on the stage of the ellipse, President Trump told tens of thousands of angry supporters that the election was stolen. They had the power to change that if they marched to the Capitol, and that they wouldn't have a country anymore.
Played us like a damn fiddle!
Taken away from him.
Like a damn fiddle.
He would be there with them. And then, as the crowd descended on the Capitol, President Trump watched it on television. Despite pleas from his senior advisors, from lawmakers on the Hill, and from his own children, President Trump would not issue a public statement instructing his supporters to disperse and leave the Capitol. Mr. Trump's failures spanned the period from 1:10 p.m., when his speech ended, and he instructed his supporters to march to the Capitol, to 4:17 p.m., when he finally, begrudgingly, told his supporters to go home. For 187 minutes, he actively disregarded his constitutional obligation to take care that the laws are faithfully executed. As we've established through months of investigation, that is because the mob wanted what President Trump wanted, to impede the peaceful transition of power. These are the Select Committee's findings about President Trump's dereliction of duty. From the outset of the violence, and for several hours that followed, people at the Capitol, people inside President Trump's administration, elected officials of both parties, members of President Trump's own family, and even Fox News commentators who were sympathetic to President Trump, all tried to contact the White House to urge him to do one singular thing, the one thing that all of these people immediately understood was required: instruct his supporters to leave the Capitol. The president repeatedly refused pleas as he watched the violence at the Capitol on television. During the day, the president never spoke with National Guard, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, or any law enforcement agency. At no point during the day, or any other, did he issue any order to deploy any law enforcement agency to assist.
They're all going to get a chance to speak.
Multiple witnesses, including President Trump's White House counsel, testified to these facts. Your White House employees, who had been speaking directly with President Trump,
what, 4 more?
State that he didn't want anything done.
But then we've got the votes are coming. We will have a vote on the release of the report, and then I would assume the criminal referrals will be the last thing they do.
And Mr.
We will have a vote on 3 different charges possible.
Even after violence,
they haven't exactly said what they're going to do,
encourage them to continue.
but Adam Schiff was very coy when he was on the Sunday
3
shows.
hours after being informed of the violence at the Capitol, hours during which, as our evidence has shown, Donald Trump sat in
I'm absolutely with you. I mean,
the president released a video statement
in
which he again repeated that the election was stolen.
You're right that they didn't delve into the cops that were working with him, the FBI that was possibly working with the insurrectionists, Secret Service that was in on it.
Elements of the crowd, many of whom have testified that it led them to depart the
But
Capitol.
apparently Kinzinger and Cheney were very adamant about not doing that.
In his last tweet of the day,
But I can't begrudge them if they're actually going to, attempt to hold Trump accountable, because we've never fucking held a powerful person accountable in this country before.
landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away, he wrote. Remember this day forever. There's no doubt that President Trump thought that the actions of the rioters were justified. In the days after January 6th, he spoke to several different advisors. And in those conversations, he minimized the seriousness of the attack. Here's new testimony from another one of President Senior's advisors, Kellyanne Conway.
I mean, we've got the buck has to stop.
You said you talked to the president.
Kellyanne Conway.
Tell us about that conversation on the 7th.
Yeah, I don't think it was very long. I just said that was just a terrible day. I'm working on a long statement. I said it's crazy.
What did he say?
No, these people are upset. They're very upset.
In the days following the attack, President Trump also
The buck has to stop somewhere.
those involved in the attack.
I don't think we would have ever had a
suggested
Trump if
that he
Nixon
will
had
do
been
so if
prosecuted.
he returns to the Oval Office. In some
Possible Reagan wouldn't have been as emboldened
Trump
as he was
lit the flame.
had Nixon been prosecuted.
gasoline on the fire.
If fucking Reagan had been
in the White
prosecuted,
House dining room for hours.
Bush wouldn't have been as brazen as he was.
And today, he still continues to fan those flames. That was his
We've got to prosecute some powerful people because they keep
Chairman,
getting away with it.
Gentlewoman
Keep
yields
getting
back.
away with this bullshit.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Raskin, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you for your extraordinary leadership of this committee. Generations to come will praise you and the Vice Chair for your unswerving devotion to the rule of law. Several months ago, you tasked several of our members in a subcommittee with bringing recommendations to the full committee about potential referrals to the Department of Justice and other authorities based on evidence of criminal and civil offenses that has come to our attention over the course of our investigation. We are now prepared to share those recommendations today.
Oh, here we go.
Let me begin with some relevant background considerations to our criminal referrals. The dangerous assault on American constitutional democracy that took place on January 6, 2021 consists of hundreds of individual
Squid, I love you, my friend, but like you can't ascribe some overarching motive to people like
justice. We proposed to the committee.
I guess this is the thing where I've been so involved in politics, and I know Mitch McConnell personally.
And the centrality
Senator Rockefeller told me happy birthday.
Design of the unlawful scheme to overthrow the election.
These are just people with
ours is
these are just normal people, and there are a whole range of motives for ways that people act.
And ringleaders get a free pass. Mr. Chairman, as you know, our committee had the opportunity.
You can't ascribe one overarching motive to the entire party, because especially the Democratic Party.
Our investigation from any other congressional investigation.
It is indeed a big tent party that there's a lot of opposing views. I think there are many people in the Democratic Party that are fantastic representatives.
Court Judge David
to a couple of senators.
Just a small subset of our evidence to determine
that truly care about doing what is best for the people.
Federal offense. The judge concluded that both
the fart right. We might have to do that.
John Eastman likely violated 2 federal criminal statutes. This is the starting point for our analysis today. The first criminal statute we invoke for referral.
We'll play that later on.
Title 18, Section 1512C,
we might get to that
makes
tonight.
it unlawful for anyone to corruptly obstruct, influence, or impede any.
I don't think it's criminal to take bad advice from lawyers.
Of the United States government. We believe that the evidence described.
You're seeking out lawyers to try to get the legal opinion that you want.
Warrants a criminal referral of former President Donald J. Trump, John Eastman, and others for violations of this statute.
Well, who are the others?
An obvious effect of Trump's scheme were to obstruct, influence, and impede this official proceeding, the central moment for the lawful transfer of power in the United States. Second, we believe that there is more than sufficient evidence to refer former President Donald J. Trump, John Eastman, and others for violating Title 18, Section 371. This statute makes it a crime to conspire to defraud the United States. In other words, to make an agreement to impair, obstruct, or defeat the lawful functions of the United States government by deceitful or dishonest means. Former President Trump did not engage in a plan to defraud the United States acting alone. He entered into agreements, formal and
Are
informal.
we going to get the major charge of inciting an
Who
insurrection?
assisted him with his criminal objectives. Our report describes in detail the actions of numerous co-conspirators who agreed with and participated in Trump's plan to impair, obstruct, and defeat the certification of President Biden's electoral.
I feel like those two charges are a given.
That said,
those
the
are easy to
subcommittee
prove.
does not attempt to determine all of the potential participants in this conspiracy, as our understanding of the role of many individuals may be incomplete even today because they refuse to answer our questions. We trust that the Department of Justice will be able to form a far more complete picture through its own investigation. Third, we make a referral based on Title 18, Section 1001, which makes it unlawful to knowingly and willfully make materially false statements to the federal government. The evidence clearly suggests that President Trump conspired with others to submit slates of fake electors to Congress and the National Archives. We believe that this evidence...
Now we're getting into charges that we didn't even know that they were going to throw at
for a
us.
criminal referral of former President Donald J. Trump and others in connection with this offense. As before, we don't try to determine all of the participants in this conspiracy, many of whom refuse to answer our questions while under oath. We trust that the Department of Justice will be able to form a more complete picture through its own investigation. The fourth and final statute we invoke for referral is Title 18, Section 2383. The statute applies to anyone who incites, assists, or engages in insurrection against the United States of America, and anyone
that's the big boy.
who gives aid or comfort to an insurrection. An insurrection is a rebellion against the authority of the United States. It is a grave federal offense anchored in the Constitution itself, which repeatedly opposes insurrections and domestic violence, and indeed uses participation in insurrection by office holders as automatic grounds for disqualification from ever holding public office again at the federal or state level. Anyone who incites others to engage in rebelling, assists them in doing so, or gives aid and comfort to those engaged in insurrection is guilty of a federal crime.
I will smoke.
The committee believes that more than sufficient evidence exists for a criminal referral of former President Trump for assisting or aiding and comforting those at the Capitol who...
Well, he absolutely should, Steelers. God damn.
The committee has developed significant evidence that President...
I ask you, why are you not demanding that he's put in jail?
Transition of power under our Constitution. The president...
The fact that the Republican Party is not scared of their voters.
...to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Nothing could be a greater betrayal of this duty than to assist in insurrection against the constitutional order. The complete factual basis for this referral is set forth in detail throughout our report.
And just if the Republican Party would hold their politicians
President Trump's conduct related to the
standard they want to hold everybody else to, the world would be a lot better off.
The president's actions could certainly trigger other criminal violations. Nor are President Trump and his immediate team the only people identified for referrals in our report. As part of our investigation, we asked multiple members of Congress to speak with us about issues critical to our understanding of this attack.
Oh, I think he's getting charged.
And our system of
I'm pretty confident in it.
None agreed to provide that essential information. As a result, we took the significant step of issuing them subpoenas based on the volume of information particular members possessed about one or more...
Whether he does jail time, that's a different story, but he's getting charged.
None of the subpoenaed members...
As I've said before, here's the thing. They're going to give him every chance to not get perp walk, to come in and do his booking photo and everything, and to walk out with his lawyers that day, and I don't think Trump is going to let that happen. I think Trump is going to force them to go in and perp walk him out.
But we have gone where the facts and the law lead us, and inescapably, they lead us here. Accordingly, Mr. Chairman, in light of these facts, I ask unanimous consent that the chairman be directed.
That's an issue with
Department of Justice relevant select.
It's the capitalist incentive.
Furtherance of these criminal referrals.
That's an issue with the media. That has nothing to do with politicians.
Without objection, so ordered.
But yeah, I don't think Trump is going to do the dignified thing. He's going to make him come into Mar-a-Lago and pull him the fuck out.
Select Committee's final report pursuant to Section 4A of House Resolution 503. The clerk shall designate the report.
Final report of the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United
I said
States
charged.
Capitol.
If he is charged, I will shave my head.
Will be considered read and open to amendment at this point. I now recognize the gentlewoman from Virginia, Ms. Luria, for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee favorably report to the House the Select Committee's final report, which includes the committee's legislative
War Machine, if you really want to know, I was going to shave my head anyway.
referrals of Donald J. Trump and others, pursuant to Section 4.
So why not go ahead and say that I'll do it, something that I,
The question
over
is on the
something that I think
motion
is
to
going to happen
favorably
anyway.
report to the House. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I request a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Cheney?
Aye.
Ms. Cheney, aye. Ms. Lofgren?
Aye.
Ms. Lofgren, aye. Mr. Schiff?
Okay, Squid, I don't understand what the deal is with the cynicism.
Mr. Aguilar?
You know, if everybody on the nominally left is like, oh, well, he's not going to do any jail time, oh, well, and if you're just always down about it,
Mrs. Luria?
Aye.
it makes it that much easier for them to get away with not punishing him.
Mr. Kinzinger, aye.
Why take that stance? Why not be on the side of like, yes, this motherfucker should
Chairman, you are
face
not
charges?
recorded.
Chair votes aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
The clerk will report the vote.
Mr. Chairman, on this vote, there are 9 ayes.
Tones, good afternoon.
The motion is agreed to. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Without objection, staff is authorized to make any necessary technical or conforming changes to the report to reflect the actions of the committee. The chair requests those in the hearing room remain seated until the Capitol Police have escorted members from the room. There being no further business, without objection, the Select Committee stands adjourned.
There's a lot of alpha manly man, though, that they do get offended if you misgender them.
After 18 months of work, and you hear the room breaking out into applause. The headline of this day, it has referred the former president of the United States for criminal charges in 4 different areas, including conspiracy to make a false statement.
This is historic.
Assisting, or aiding and comforting an insurrection.
Never happened before.
This is a special report.
It should have.
I'm Libby Casey, and as we watch,
I brought up many times it should have.
The room for
From Nixon to Reagan.
And they said James will be their last public meeting. I want to bring in James.
Cassie, good afternoon.
What we learned today, James.
This is a significant event. While these criminal referrals aren't binding, the Justice Department isn't compelled to criminally charge the former president. This is the first time that the United States Congress has ever criminally referred a
Dealers, the FBI is not censoring speech. Oh my God.
And
you want to talk about censoring speech? Like I can like go back through the history of the FBI where they have
nearly
targeted leftist groups.
We heard making the case to
But this whole fucking, can you get your ass out of right-wing media mindset? Can you stop with like parroting what Elon and Tucker Carlson are telling you to talk about? Like, fuck, dude.
James, I just want to point out those officers who are sitting there.
You're telling me to watch the news. Are you a fucking dumb fuck?
Yes, this is it's hard to overstate how much this has sort of physically and mentally affected the community on Capitol Hill.
This dumbass just told me to watch the news.
And this was a very traumatic experience, especially for these folks who feared for their lives that day, faced serious injuries, and also...
Honey, I'm pretty sure only one of us has actually read the Twitter files.
This Congress is coming to a close, as you noted, just before this hearing began. 4 of the people we just...
There is nothing in the Twitter files that I didn't already know about. Like, if you want to talk about the NSA program that started under Bush, that I've been opposed to for 20 goddamn years.
Disorder and have stepped down or have gone elsewhere.
Then we can go there, but this idea that there is something revealing in the Twitter files that Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss, and apparently there's been a falling out between Elon and Barry Weiss over this.
Just a reminder of everyone that we've heard from, so much that's been...
If you think there is something there that I should be concerned about, you're just an idiot.
Of the fake
you are watching the shiny object that they're fucking you over with.
One of Trump's earliest political advisors and one of his...
Oh yeah, War Machine. It is over. That was the end of the hearing.
That she tried to urge Trump...
I am the news.
Before the insurrection.
I'm here to do the news's work.
6th, to urge people to be nonviolent. And
find out what that news be doing.
Trump refused to do so. So that was sort of one of the gold coins that we got. We knew
I am the new media messiah, the Buddha of broadcasting, the minister of mission.
I
fucked up my own. That's how tired I am. I haven't been to bed yet.
Officer Gunnell has chosen not to rejoin the force. He is having to step away, but he said this was a very...
So Barry Weiss said that Elon Jet wasn't actually a dox? Like,
has said that
it's not.
He really didn't have a choice because of the injuries he suffered and the situation at the Capitol.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of the injuries, the back and the neck.
What that news do?
Mentally being there, being at this workplace. And it's also a very hard dynamic because it's become very politicized, and the Capitol Police in the past never had to worry about that. They were sort of viewed the same by Republicans and Democrats on the Hill, and now for people...
Raskin looks like he's holding in a fart here.
They
capture this screenshot that Sassy put up
for the Republicans. It makes it just a lot harder for them to be there doing their job of protecting those members.
And it is important to notice, I'm watching people as they come up to the officers, talk to them, some members of the committee, some other members of Congress, and some journalists too, because all of those people were under siege that day. Those officers defended the Capitol and defended the lives.
I mean, it could have been at one of the quiet points when, like, the entire chamber would hear it.
Or staffers, or the Vice President of the United States, even.
And they really humanized the story, and they have been the...
So we got a new meme format dropping.
First hearing, we saw a clip of Caroline Edwards, the officer describing seeing all that blood.
I had to send that one to blank canvas.
They have sort of humanized what otherwise can become sort of a slog through procedural, I mean, obviously very cinematic details, but...
Oh, you're talking about I didn't even notice the dude behind him.
Lawyers could say or
I didn't even notice the dude behind him. Hold on, let's go back to this.
Other members
dude is glaring a hole right through Raskin.
In the room, members of Congress who were not
listening very intently,
but who have come to watch, and including Abigail Spanberger, who was just reelected in Northern Virginia.
And Madeline Dean. Yeah, Congresswoman Dean.
Elon posted that he was at the World Cup, and I was like, I know, I saw your jet land in Doha.
So this is all going to be turned over to Jack Smith, and indeed the referral from the committee names the special counsel who Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed, and he can do with it what he wants.
What is up with the farts today?
Even respond to Congress. We're also still waiting to get the full report. This is just voting to...
Yeah, the full report will drop on Wednesday.
We've heard Wednesday, but I was sort of struck by how many times they said later this week. This committee has a tendency to let things slip a little bit. They also said, Chairman Benny Thompson, that they're going to release all of the non-sensitive work product and evidence that they've gathered, which would include transcripts of depositions. Interestingly, Thompson said we're going to release those before the end of the year, which is not this week. So you could see multiple tranches sort of come out of this committee before it gets disbanded in the coming weeks. So you could see a report.
So apparently it wasn't his stalker. Apparently it was a Grimes fan.
Let's go to Rhonda Colvin on Capitol Hill. Rhonda, I saw you in that hearing room as we were watching this meeting unfold. I want to put up on the screen what we have learned are the criminal referrals that the committee is making to the DOJ special
Obstruction of an
counsel.
official
Rhonda,
proceeding,
let's talk
conspiracy
about
to
these
defraud
4
the United
items that
States,
they are
conspiracy to make a
referring
false
the former
statement,
president on.
and inciting an insurrection.
Well, we heard from the subcommittee chair, Jamie Raskin, who was a part of that small working group who decided which charges they would recommend to the DOJ, and he ran through them. He ran through the evidence, or at least gave us a hint of the evidence that the committee feels they have.
Well, it would appear that Taylor Lorenz actually was working on that story, and that was the reason why Elon retaliated against her. Because she found out she didn't really have a stalker, dude. I don't have a rundown of what we're going to talk about tonight, so I can't really plug the show. We will be back and we will find out what that news be doing at 8 o'clock Eastern tonight. Programming note on the rest of the week. There will be a Troll Patrol on Saturday, Christmas Eve. Normal troll time at 8 p.m. Have NORAD tracking Santa's sleigh. We'll have clips of like Biden calling kids, not sniffing kids, just calling them and talking to them, wishing them happy Christmas. So we'll cover the news on Saturday. On Sunday, no Troll Patrol. Troll on Saturday this week. No Troll Patrol on Sunday. We're going to do a fucking round stream. It'll only be on Twitch and like D-Live. And we're going to watch old Christmas specials. Christmas Day, we're going to watch old Christmas specials. We'll go till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Who knows? We'll have a fun time doing Christmas specials. That's what I got planned for you. I'm trying to work out something really cool for the Friday Night Freak Show on Christmas Eve. I'm going to raid the Majority Report because I'm never on during the Majority Report. I'm going to try to like hopefully get some followers. Maybe get the attention of Matt Leck and shit. Because I would love to have Matt or Bradley on as co-host on the Friday Night Freak Show sometime. Fun. But do come back and hang out with me at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. I can't do my usual sign-off, so we'll do the one I usually do when I'm coming off stage from doing stand-up comedy. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. However, that doesn't limit your options very much at all. I'm Justin FREAKIN. We'll see you tonight on the Troll Patrol. Live.